I found my son's search history, how to trigger stroke in elderly, undetectable poisons, inheriting while parent alive. I'm a retired ER doctor. I know exactly what he's planning. Before we continue, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to hear my story. If you're comfortable, let me know where you're listening from, and what time it is where you are. Now let me tell you my story. My son left his laptop open on my kitchen table. That's how it all started. With a laptop and a moment of carelessness, Derek had come over to help me with my tablet, as he'd been doing increasingly often these past few months. Always so attentive, always so concerned about his aging mother. He'd stepped outside to take a phone call, leaving his computer on my table, screen still glowing. I needed to look up a medication interaction, an old habit from my years as an ER physician. Even retired, I still checked these things obsessively. I sat down at Derek's laptop and opened his browser to search for medical information. The moment I typed med into the search bar, the browser's autofill history populated, and what I saw made my blood run cold. How to trigger stroke in elderly parent. Undetectable poisons for seniors. Medications that cause heart attack. Inheriting before parent dies. How long does probate take? Can life insurance be collected immediately? Natural causes of death in elderly, stroke symptoms that look natural. The list went on, and on. Each search was dated. Time-stamped. Most from the past 3 weeks. My son had been researching how to kill me. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely function, but my medical training kicked in. Document everything. I pulled out my phone and took photographs. Multiple photos of the screen, making sure every search was visible, every timestamp clear. Then I closed the browser and sat back, my heart pounding. Outside, I could hear Derek still on his phone call, laughing about something. I forced myself to breathe slowly, to think clearly. I'm Dr. Margaret Hayes. I'm 71 years old. I spent 42 years as an emergency room physician at Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta. I've seen everything in that ER. Every kind of trauma, every kind of poisoning, every kind of murder attempt dressed up as an accident. I know what I'm looking at. My son is planning to murder me. The question is why? And more importantly, what am I going to do about it? Derek came back inside smiling, pocketing his phone. Sorry about that, Mom. Work call. So did you have questions about your tablet? I smiled back at him, the same smile I'd given him his entire life. Actually, I figured it out on my own. Thank you, sweetheart. You sure? I'm happy to help. I'm sure. You're so good to me, Derek. Always checking on me. Anything for you, Mom. Nicole and I just want to make sure you're taken care of. Nicole, his wife. Were they in this together? How is Nicole? I asked, keeping my voice light. She's good. She'll come by tomorrow to bring you dinner. She knows you don't like cooking for just yourself. Tomorrow. Nicole bringing me dinner. I thought about those searches. Undetectable poisons. That's so thoughtful, I said. Tell her thank you. After Derek left, I sat in my living room for an hour, just thinking, analyzing. The way I'd analyzed thousands of cases in the ER. Patient presentation: 71-year-old woman, living alone, widowed 5 years. Recent symptoms: dizziness, fatigue, confusion, memory lapses. I'd been blaming these on getting old. Normal aging. But now with this new information, I went to my bathroom and looked at my medications. I take 3 prescriptions: lisinopril for blood pressure, atorvastatin for cholesterol, baby aspirin for heart health. All perfectly normal for someone my age. But for the past 6 months, Nicole had been helping me by organizing my pills into a weekly pill organizer. So you don't forget to take them, Mom, Margaret, she'd said sweetly. I picked up this week's organizer and looked at the pills inside. Monday's compartment. 4 pills. I should only have 3. I dumped them into my hand and examined them closely. 3 I recognized. 1 I didn't. A small white pill, round, with markings I couldn't quite read without my magnifying glass. I got my magnifying glass from the desk and examined the pill closely. The marking read, X3A. I went to my computer and searched for pill identification. Digoxin, 0.25 mg, a heart medication, used to treat atrial fibrillation and heart failure. A medication I had never been prescribed. A medication that in the wrong doses causes exactly the symptoms I'd been having: dizziness, fatigue, confusion, nausea. A medication that in toxic doses causes fatal cardiac arrhythmias and death. Death that would look completely natural in a 71-year-old woman with a history of high blood pressure. I sat down heavily in my chair. Nicole had been poisoning me. For 6 months she'd been adding digoxin to my medication organizer, slowly building up toxicity in my system. And Derek had been researching how to finish the job. How to trigger the final stroke or heart attack that would kill me and make it look natural. I should call the police right now. But even as I thought it, I knew what would happen. Derek would claim I was confused, paranoid, suffering from dementia, which ironically was one of the symptoms of digoxin toxicity they'd been causing. Mom's been really confused lately, he'd say sadly. We've been worried about her. She keeps making accusations that don't make sense. They'd probably already laid the groundwork for that defense. All those times Derek had suggested I was forgetting things, or getting confused. No, I needed evidence. Real, irrefutable, documented evidence. The kind of evidence I'd spent 4 decades creating in emergency rooms for police investigations and court cases. I knew how to build a case. And I was going to build one against my own son. Let me tell you about my career, so you understand what I'm capable of. I graduated from Meharry Medical College in 1978, one of the few black women in my class. It wasn't easy. The racism was pervasive. The sexism worse. Professors who wouldn't call on me in class. Classmates who assumed I was only there because of affirmative action. I proved them all wrong. Graduated in the top 10% of my class. I specialized in emergency medicine and spent 42 years at Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta. Grady is a level 1 trauma center. We saw everything. Gunshot wounds, stabbings, car accidents, overdoses, poisonings, and murders disguised as accidents. Over the years I developed a reputation for being able to spot the inconsistencies. The injuries that didn't quite match the story. The accidents that were a little too convenient. I became an expert at recognizing the patterns. The subtle signs that something wasn't quite right. I testified as an expert witness in over 40 criminal cases. Assault, attempted murder, murder. Prosecutors loved working with me because my documentation was impeccable. Defense attorneys hated me because my testimony was unshakable. I published papers on recognizing non-accidental injury patterns in adults, on toxicology red flags, in emergency medicine, on the subtle differences between accidental and intentional poisoning. My articles were cited in medical journals, used in training programs across the country. I knew poisons. I knew how they worked. I knew their symptoms. I knew their timelines. I knew how perpetrators tried to disguise them. And I knew how to document everything in a way that would hold up in court. That's what I was going to do now. Document everything. Build a case so airtight that Derek and Nicole couldn't possibly escape. And make sure they went to prison for a very, very long time. But first, I needed to understand the full scope of what they were doing. I spent that night going through my medical records from the past 6 months. Every doctor's visit, every symptom I'd reported, every test result, creating a timeline of my declining health that coincided exactly with when Nicole started helping with my medications. The pattern was undeniable. Month 1, mild symptoms, occasional dizziness, slight fatigue. Month 2, symptoms worsening, more frequent dizzy spells, increased confusion. Month 3, Derek suggesting I see a neurologist. Mom, I'm worried you might be developing dementia. The neurologist had run tests, found nothing definitive, said it could be early-stage cognitive decline but recommended monitoring. Month 4, symptoms intensifying, episodes of severe nausea, weakness, memory lapses that scared me. Month 5, Derek bringing up assisted living for the first time, just to have professional care available if you need it. Month 6, me feeling like I was falling apart, wondering if I was dying. And all along, Nicole refilling my pill organizer every week with a smile. Just want to make sure you're taking care of yourself, Mom Margaret. Taking care of myself, by poisoning me. The cruel irony wasn't lost on me. I also went back through my financial records. I wanted to understand Derek's motive more clearly. My estate was worth approximately $2.1 million. My house fully paid off, valued at $850,000. Retirement accounts totaling $900,000. Life insurance policy for $350,000. My will, drafted 5 years ago after my husband Robert died, left everything to Derek. He was my only child. It seemed natural. But now I started digging into Derek's finances. I still had access to some information from when I'd co-signed a business loan for him 3 years ago. That business had failed, but the loan gave me ongoing access to monitor his credit. What I found was worse than I'd imagined. Derek wasn't just in debt. He was drowning. Credit cards $200,000, multiple cards maxed out, minimum payments barely being made. Business loans, $150,000 from the failed tech startup he tried to launch 2 years ago. Car loans, $80,000 for 2 luxury vehicles he and Nicole drove, a BMW and a Mercedes, both leased at prices far beyond what they could afford. Personal loans, $50,000 borrowed from what looked like predatory lenders. The kind of people who don't take "I can't pay" for an answer. Total debt, $480,000. And Derek's salary as an IT manager was only $85,000 a year. Nicole didn't work, claiming some vague chronic illness that I'd never seen any medical evidence for. They were facing financial catastrophe, bankruptcy, foreclosure, and worse. Those personal loan sharks weren't the type to just write off debt. My death would solve everything for them. $2.1 million would pay off every debt and leave them with over $1.6 million to live on. No more financial stress. No more threatening phone calls from creditors. No more fear. All they had to do was kill me. And make it look natural. The realization settled over me like a cold weight. My son had decided I was worth more dead than alive. The next morning I called my old colleague Dr. Raymond Chen. Raymond still worked at Grady in the toxicology department. We'd worked together for 20 years before I retired. He was one of the few people I trusted completely. A brilliant toxicologist who'd helped me with dozens of cases over the years. "Raymond, I need your help with something, and I need you to keep it confidential." "Of course. Margaret, what's going on?" "I need you to analyze some pills. I think someone is poisoning me." Silence on the other end of the line. Then, "Come to my office. Today, bring the pills." An hour later I was sitting in Raymond's office at Grady, showing him the extra pill from my medication organizer. He examined it under a magnifying lens, then ran it through the hospital's pill identification system. Destexin, 0.25 milligram. "Margaret, are you prescribed this?" "No." "Who prepares your medication organizer?" "My daughter-in-law, Nicole." Raymond's face hardened. He'd known my family for years, had been to Derek's wedding. This betrayal hit him too. "You think she's poisoning you?" "I know she is. I found my son's browser history. He's been researching how to kill elderly parents, how to trigger strokes, undetectable poisons." I showed him the photographs on my phone. Raymond stared at the screen, his expression growing darker with each image. "My God, Margaret, this is attempted murder, premeditated murder." "I know, and I need you to document it. Officially, the way you document it for a court case." Raymond didn't hesitate. "I'll run a full analysis on this pill. And Margaret, I want to run comprehensive toxicology screening on you, full blood work. See what's actually in your system and how much damage has been done." "Do it." Raymond drew multiple vials of blood, sent the pill for detailed chemical analysis, and promised me full reports within 48 hours. "In the meantime," he said seriously, "stop taking anything from that pill organizer. In fact, bring me the entire organizer. I want to analyze every single pill in it." I was planning to. "And Margaret?" His voice was heavy with concern. "You need to be careful. If they realize you know." "I'm being very careful. I'm a doctor, Raymond. I know how to observe without being observed. How to document without raising suspicion." "I know you do, but these are your family members, your son. That makes it different." "Not anymore, it doesn't." The moment Derek typed "how to kill elderly parent" into that search bar, he stopped being my son. Now he's just another attempted murderer, and I'm going to treat him exactly like that. The results came back 2 days later. Raymond called me early in the morning, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Margaret, every single compartment in your weekly pill organizer contains digoxin tablets mixed in with your legitimate medications. Every single one." "How much?" "Approximately 0.5 millibar per day based on the number of tablets we found. That's twice the normal starting dose, and you're not even supposed to be taking it." "Cumulative toxicity." "Exactly. Your blood work shows elevated digoxin levels. Not yet at immediately lethal levels, but building towards serious toxicity. Margaret, If you'd continued taking these pills for another 2 to 3 weeks, you would have died of cardiac arrest, and it would have looked completely natural for a woman your age with your medical history. I closed my eyes. 2 to 3 weeks. They'd almost succeeded. Can you document all of this officially? Full toxicology report, pill analysis, everything admissible in court. Already done. This is a medico-legal document. Chain of custody maintained. It'll hold up in any legal proceeding. Thank you, Raymond. What are you going to do? I'm going to catch them in the act, and I'm going to make sure they go to prison for attempting to murder me. Be careful, Margaret, please. I will. I promise. That same day I went to a security store and bought a comprehensive home surveillance system. Hidden cameras disguised as everyday objects. Smoke detectors. Digital alarm clocks. Picture frames. Even a wall outlet with a built-in camera. I installed them throughout my house over the next few days, telling Derek and Nicole I was worried about break-ins in the neighborhood and wanted better security. Derek actually helped me install the visible cameras, the obvious ones by the front and back doors. He had no idea about the hidden ones inside that were recording everything. Kitchen, living room, dining room, even my bedroom, all streaming to encrypted cloud storage that only I could access. I also started keeping a detailed medical journal, something I'd done for 42 years in the ER, documenting patient cases for potential legal proceedings. Dates, times, symptoms, observations, photographs, everything cross-referenced and time-stamped. Every time Derek or Nicole visited, every conversation, every medication I was supposed to take but secretly didn't. I documented how my symptoms began improving once I stopped taking the poisoned pills. How my thinking cleared. My dizziness decreased. My energy returned. Proof that the symptoms were being caused by the digoxin poisoning, not by natural aging or disease. Everything documented with the precision of a physician building a criminal case. Next I replaced the digoxin pills in my medication organizer with look-alike vitamins. Same size, same color, but completely harmless. So I'd no longer be poisoned, but Derek and Nicole would think their plan was still working. Within a week my symptoms had improved dramatically. The fog lifted from my mind. The constant dizziness subsided. I felt more like myself than I had in months. But I made absolutely sure Derek and Nicole didn't know this. When they visited I acted confused. Weak, forgetful. The performance of a lifetime. Mom, did you take your medications today? Derek would ask. Yes, sweetheart. From the organizer Nicole prepared. Every day, just like I'm supposed to. Good. That's so important. We don't want your condition to worsen. My condition. The condition they were causing. The cameras captured everything. Nicole coming over twice a week with her helpful smile. Just checking on you, Mom, Margaret. Refilling my pill organizer from bottles she kept in her purse. And this was the part that would seal their fate. The kitchen camera caught her in perfect detail, adding the extra pills. Digoxin tablets from an unmarked prescription bottle. Carefully adding one to each day's compartment in my organizer. The video was crystal clear. Date and time stamped. Zoomed in enough to see the pills. To read her facial expression, cold, calculated, completely without remorse. Irrefutable evidence. I also captured audio conversations. The hidden microphones recorded Nicole and Derek talking in my kitchen while I was supposedly napping in my bedroom. I was actually wide awake listening through the system on my phone. Nicole? She's not deteriorating fast enough. I'm increasing the dose this week. Derek? What if she notices? What if the pills look different? Derek? She's 71 and confused. She won't notice. And even if she does, we'll just say she's having paranoid delusions. It's a known symptom of dementia. Are you sure no one will question it when she dies? I'm positive. Elderly woman, high blood pressure, taking multiple medications. Cardiac event is completely expected. The doctor will sign the death certificate as natural causes without a second thought. How much longer? 2, maybe 3 more weeks. Her body is breaking down from the inside. Soon she'll have a stroke or heart attack. When it happens, we wait a bit before calling 911. Give it time to be irreversible. And then, Derek, we inherit $2.1 million. All our problems solved. The debt paid off. The loan shark's gone. We can finally live the life we deserve. Every word captured, every admission documented, every piece of evidence archived. They were so confident, so certain they were getting away with it. They had no idea I was building a criminal case against them that would send them to prison for decades. 2 weeks into my documentation phase, I called my attorney. Patricia Morrison had been my lawyer and friend for 30 years. We'd met when she handled my husband Robert's estate after he died. I trusted her completely. We met at her office downtown, not my house. I didn't want to risk Derek or Nicole somehow seeing us together and becoming suspicious. Patricia, I need to make some urgent changes to my will. She looked concerned. Is everything all right, Margaret? I showed her everything. The photographs of Derek's search history, the toxicology reports from Raymond, the hidden camera footage of Nicole adding pills to my medication, the audio recordings of them discussing my death and their inheritance. Patricia watched and listened, her face growing paler with each piece of evidence. When I finished, she sat back in her chair, clearly shaken. Margaret, this is attempted murder. You need to call the police immediately. I will. But first, I need to protect my estate. I want Derek completely removed as beneficiary. Absolutely. Where do you want your estate to go? Medical charities, Grady Memorial Hospital's ER fund, scholarships for minority medical students, elder abuse prevention organizations. I'll give you the full list. I'll draft a new will today, completely ironclad with a contest clause stating that if anyone challenges this will, they're automatically disinherited from any residual bequests. Perfect. I also need Derek's access to any of my accounts revoked. Any informal power of attorney he might try to claim. I'll create documentation specifically revoking any such claims. Margaret, I have to ask, are you planning to tell Derek about this? Not yet. I want him to think he's still inheriting. I want him and Nicole to continue with their plan. Continue incriminating themselves, until I have enough evidence to ensure they spend the next 20 years in prison. Patricia looked at me with a mixture of admiration and worry. You're using yourself as bait? I'm gathering evidence. There's a difference. And Patricia, I need one more thing. Can you connect me with someone at the district attorney's office? Someone who handles elder abuse cases. I know exactly who you need. Assistant District Attorney Helen Carter. She's one of the toughest prosecutors in Atlanta, and she has a personal history with elder abuse, lost her own grandmother to financial exploitation by a caregiver. She doesn't lose these cases. Set up a meeting. As soon as possible. 3 days later, I sat in Adia Helen Carter's office with Patricia by my side. Helen was 48, sharp-eyed, no nonsense. She had the look of someone who'd seen too much cruelty and developed zero tolerance for it. I presented everything, all my evidence. Organized, documented, indexed with the precision of 42 years of medical record keeping. Helen reviewed it, methodically taking notes, asking sharp questions. When she finished, she looked at me with a mixture of respect and deep concern. Dr. Hayes, I have to tell you, this is one of the most comprehensively documented attempted murder cases I've ever seen before charges have even been filed. Most victims don't have the knowledge or resources to do what you've done. I spent 4 decades documenting medical cases for legal proceedings. I know what prosecutors need to build an airtight case. You've certainly given me that. But I need to ask, what's your end goal here? I want Derek and Nicole arrested and prosecuted for attempted murder, first-degree murder, premeditated. I want them in prison for 25 years or more, and I want the case so thoroughly documented that there's no possibility of them claiming I'm a confused elderly woman making false accusations. Helen nodded slowly. We can achieve that. But here's what I need you to understand. Right now, we have evidence of conspiracy, poisoning, planning, but for attempted murder in the first degree, we need them to make an overt act with clear intent to kill. They're discussing waiting for me to have a cardiac event and not calling 911 right away, which is damning. But I need more. I need them to actively attempt to kill you in a way we can prove beyond any reasonable doubt. They're getting desperate. Derek owes money to dangerous people. He needs me dead within the next few weeks. They're going to make a move soon. Are you willing to wear a wire? Capture more conversations? More admissions? Absolutely. Helen coordinated with Detective Marcus Williams from Atlanta PD's Major Crimes Unit, who specialized in elder abuse cases. Together, we developed a comprehensive plan. I would wear a sophisticated wire during all of Derek and Nicole's visits. The hidden cameras would continue recording everything. I would get weekly toxicology screenings at Grady to document any continued poisoning attempts. Undercover police officers would maintain surveillance on my house, ready to intervene if the situation became immediately dangerous. Dr. Hayes, Detective Williams said seriously, I need to make this absolutely clear. What you're proposing to do using yourself as bait to draw out attempted murder is incredibly dangerous. I understand the risks. Do you? Because if something goes wrong, if they act faster than we can respond. Detective, I've been bait for weeks already. I've been taking poisoned medication that could have killed me. Now I'm just bait with law enforcement backup, comprehensive surveillance and the medical knowledge to protect myself. I'll take those odds. The wire was remarkably sophisticated. A tiny device hidden in the medical alert pendant I wore around my neck. To Derek and Nicole, it looked like I'd finally gotten one of those I've fallen and can't get up systems they'd been suggesting. They had no idea it was recording every word they said within 20 feet of me. Derek came over the following Friday evening, ostensibly to check on me. I made sure to act weaker than I actually felt. Slower, more confused. The performance of a lifetime. Mom, you don't look well. His voice was full of manufactured concern. I'm just tired, sweetheart. Getting old is hard. Have you been taking your medications? Every single day? Yes. From the organizer Nicole prepares. Like clockwork. That's good. Very good. Those medications are keeping you alive, Mom? The irony was so thick I almost laughed, but I kept my expression neutral, confused. Of course, dear, I know they're important. Derek moved closer, studying my face. Mom, I've been thinking it might be time to talk about assisted living, somewhere with professional care, 24-hour supervision. I'm fine here in my own home. But you're getting confused more often, forgetting things. What if you fall? What if something happens and no one's here to help you? The subtext was clear. He was preparing everyone for my inevitable sudden death. Setting up the narrative that I was declining, that a cardiac event would be expected, that no one should question it. What if you have a stroke, Mom? At your age, with your medical conditions, it could happen any time. There it was. Stroke, the word from his search history. The wire captured every syllable. I'm not going to have a stroke, Derek. I feel fine. You don't know that. These things happen suddenly. One moment you're fine, the next, he snapped his fingers. Gone. Or worse, incapacitated, unable to make your own decisions. That's why I think we should talk about healthcare directives. Give me power of attorney to make medical decisions if you become unable to. If I became unable to, if I had the stroke they were planning to trigger. Let me think about it, sweetheart. Don't wait too long, Mom. These things need to be in place before something happens. Before, not if. Before. He was so certain I was going to have a medical crisis soon. Because he and Nicole were going to cause it. 20 minutes later, Nicole arrived with a covered dish. Dinner for you, Mom. Margaret, your favorite chicken and dumplings. She served me a generous plate. I pretended to eat enthusiastically, but most of it went into a napkin when she wasn't looking. After my experience with the pills, I wasn't taking any chances with food she prepared either. Later, after Nicole had cleaned up the kitchen and joined Derek in the living room, they had a conversation they thought I couldn't hear. I was supposedly in my bedroom, resting. In reality, I was listening through the wire and watching on my phone as the hidden cameras captured everything. Nicole kept her voice low, but the microphone picked up every word. She looks weaker. The increased dose is working. Derek's voice was tight with stress. How much longer, Nicole? The loan sharks are calling every day. They're threatening 2 weeks. Maybe 3. Her body is breaking down. Her heart is under tremendous strain from the toxicity. Soon she'll have a catastrophic cardiac event. And then what? Then we wait before calling 911. Give the stroke or heart attack time to do irreversible damage. By the time paramedics arrive, she'll either be dead or so far gone that death is inevitable. What if the doctors realize? Derek. She's 71 years old with documented high blood pressure. Cardiac events are expected. The ER doctor will see an elderly woman who had a massive stroke and will assume it's natural causes. They won't do a full toxicology screen unless there's a reason to be suspicious, and there won't be any reason. You're sure about this? I'm positive. In 2 weeks, maybe 3, we inherit $2.1 million. All our problems disappear. God, I hope you're right, because if anything goes wrong, nothing will go wrong. Trust me. Every word was recorded, every admission documented. They'd just confessed, on tape, to planning my murder in detail. I uploaded the recording to Detective Williams that night. He called me an hour later. Dr. Hayes, this is damning evidence. Combined with everything else, we could probably arrest them right now. No, not yet. I want them caught in the act. I want irrefutable proof of attempt, not just planning. That's dangerous. I know. But it's necessary. Derek will claim he was just talking, just worried, just exploring hypothetical scenarios. I need them to actually try to kill me, to take overt action with clear murderous intent. All right. But Dr. Hayes, the moment you feel unsafe, the moment anything seems off, you press that panic button. We'll be there in 30 seconds. I understand. But what I didn't tell Detective Williams was that I had a plan. A way to force Derek and Nicole's hand, to make them reveal their intentions beyond any possible doubt. I was going to give them exactly what they'd been waiting for. I was going to fake a stroke. The plan was audacious, dangerous, but necessary. I coordinated everything with Detective Williams, Ada Carter and the medical team at Grady. Friday evening, exactly 1 week after my last wire recording, I called Derek. I made sure my voice sounded weak. Slurred. Derek, I don't feel well, dizzy. My right side can't move it. Classic stroke symptoms. Mom, I'll be right there. He hung up. I lay down on my living room couch and waited. Detective Williams and a medical team were in a surveillance van 2 houses down, monitoring everything through my hidden cameras. 15 minutes later, Derek and Nicole rushed into my house using Derek's key. They found me on the couch, right side paralyzed, speech slurred. I'm a doctor. I know how to fake symptoms convincingly. Mom, can you hear me? I didn't respond, just made incoherent sounds, my face drooping on one side. Derek pulled out his phone, started to dial 911. Then Nicole grabbed his wrist. Wait. What? Nicole, she's having a stroke. She needs— Just wait. Let's see how bad it is. Are you insane? She needs to go to the hospital. Nicole pulled him into my kitchen, out of my sight, but well within range of the hidden camera and my wire. Her voice was urgent. Hushed. Derek, think about this. If she goes to the hospital, they'll run tests, full toxicology. They'll find the digoxin in her system. They'll ask questions. How did she get medication she wasn't prescribed? But if we don't call, she could die. Exactly. This is what we've been waiting for. This is the cardiac event. If we just let nature take its course, it'll be over. No questions. No investigation. Just a natural death from a stroke. I lay on my couch, listening to my son and his wife discuss letting me die. My heart was breaking, but I kept my role. Stayed unconscious. Let the recording capture everything. Derek's voice was shaking. How long do we wait? An hour. If she hasn't improved in an hour, we call 911. By then, the damage will be irreversible. She'll either die or be so incapacitated she'll need full-time care. Either way, you get power of attorney, access to the estate. I don't know if I can. Derek. Nicole's voice was sharp. We're $500,000 in debt. Loan sharks are coming for us next week. We need this. We need her money. This is our only way out. But she's my mother. She's a 71-year-old woman who's lived a full life. We're young. We deserve a future. Now pull yourself together and sit down. We wait. Derek made his choice. Okay. We wait. They came back into the living room and sat down. Watching me die. I kept my breathing shallow. My eyes closed. Every few minutes I'd twitch slightly like someone having a stroke. 20 minutes passed. Nicole checked her watch. 40 minutes to go. Derek was pacing. Maybe we should give her something. Speed it up. No, they'll find it in the autopsy. We have to let this happen naturally. 30 minutes. Nicole checked my pulse. Still strong. Damn it. She should be weaker by now. She actually sounded disappointed that I wasn't dying fast enough. 45 minutes. Derek. Maybe we should. Nicole. No, we wait the full hour. We need to be sure. 50 minutes. Nicole leaned over me, checking my breathing. Then she whispered to Derek, maybe we help it along, put a pillow over her face, make it look like she aspirated during the stroke. They'd never question it. That was it. That was the overt act of attempted murder. I opened my eyes. Sat up. Hello, Derek? Nicole? Their faces went white. You're awake? But you were. The front door crashed open. Atlanta police. Hands where we can see them. 4 officers rushed in, guns drawn. Detective Williams right behind them. Derek Hayes and Nicole Hayes. Step away from Dr. Hayes. Now. They stumbled backward, hands up, faces showing pure shock. You set us up, Derek stammered. I stood up from the couch, perfectly healthy, perfectly steady. I'm a doctor, Derek. I know how to fake stroke symptoms. Just like I know how to recognize poisoning symptoms. Just like I know how to document evidence for a criminal prosecution. I pulled the wire from my pendant and held it up. Everything you said in the last hour is recorded. You discussing letting me die, suggesting you suffocate me with a pillow. All of it. Nicole tried to run. An officer caught her in 2 steps. Handcuffed her. Derek was crying. Mom, please, you don't understand. We were going to call 911. After waiting an hour for me to die? After discussing suffocating me, I pulled out my phone and showed him the photos. I found your search history 3 weeks ago. How to trigger stroke in elderly. Undetectable poisons. I've been documenting everything since then. Detective Williams stepped forward. Derek Hayes and Nicole Hayes, you're under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, poisoning and elder abuse. He read them their Miranda rights, while other officers handcuffed them both. Derek was sobbing. Mom, please, we're family. We didn't mean we're desperate. You chose money over my life, I said quietly. You researched how to kill me. Your wife poisoned me for months. You watched me dying on that couch and decided to wait instead of saving me. You discussed suffocating me. You're not my family anymore. They were led out in handcuffs, both crying, both protesting. I stood in my living room surrounded by police officers and felt absolutely nothing. No satisfaction, no victory, just a profound, devastating sadness. My only son had tried to murder me for money, and I'd caught him. The next day, Derek and Nicole were arraigned. ADA Helen Carter presented the evidence at the bail hearing. It was overwhelming. 5 weeks of documentation by me, a retired ER physician with impeccable credentials. Photographs of Derek's search history time-stamped and clear. Toxicology reports proving the pills in my organizer were digoxin, not prescribed to me. Hidden camera footage of Nicole adding the pills, discussing doubling the dose. Wire recordings of them discussing letting me die, waiting for the stroke to be fatal, suggesting suffocation. Financial records showing Derek's $480,000 in debt as motive for my $2.1 million estate. The judge was visibly shocked. This is one of the most premeditated attempted murders I've encountered. Bail is denied. Both defendants will be held pending trial. Derek and Nicole were led back to jail. The trial was 6 months later. The prosecution's case was absolutely airtight. I testified as both the victim and a medical expert. I'm a physician with 42 years of experience in emergency medicine. I recognized the symptoms of chronic digoxin poisoning. I documented everything the way I documented medical cases throughout my career. I have irrefutable proof that my son and daughter-in-law attempted to murder me for financial gain. Dr. Raymond Chen testified about the toxicology findings. The digoxin found in Dr. Hayes' pill organizer was not prescribed to her. In the doses Mrs. Hayes was administering, it would have caused fatal cardiac arrest within 2 to 3 weeks. Detective Williams presented the wire recordings. The jury listened to Nicole suggesting they wait while I died from the stroke. Suggesting they suffocate me with a pillow to help it along. There were audible gasps in the courtroom. Derek's defense attorney tried to argue that Derek had been coerced by Nicole, that he'd really loved his mother. The prosecution destroyed that argument in cross-examination. Mr. Hayes researched how to kill elderly parents. He watched his mother appear to be dying and chose not to call 911. He discussed his inheritance while she was unconscious. That's not love, that's murder. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Both defendants. At sentencing 2 months later, I gave a victim impact statement. Derek is my only child. I raised him, loved him, supported him through every challenge in his life. When he got into debt, he could have asked me for help. I would have helped him find solutions, would have helped him restructure his finances, would have helped him get counseling for his spending problems. Instead, he chose to murder me. He researched how to trigger a stroke in his elderly mother. He allowed his wife to poison me for months. He watched me dying on my couch and chose to wait for me to die rather than save my life. He discussed suffocating me with a pillow to speed up my death. That is not my son. That is a stranger who was willing to kill his mother for money. I have no son anymore. The judge sentenced Derek to 28 years in state prison. Nicole received 30 years. She'd been the primary poisoner, and the judge added extra time for that. Derek would be eligible for parole after 21 years. He'd be 66 years old. Nicole would be eligible after 23 years. Both were also ordered to pay $50,000 in restitution for my medical expenses, emotional distress, and legal fees. They had no money, but the judgment stood. Permanent restraining order. No contact with me. Ever. As they were led away, Derek tried one more time. Mom, please. I'm your son. You can't just abandon me. I looked at him calmly. You abandoned me when you decided to kill me. You stopped being my son the moment you typed how to trigger stroke an elderly parent into that search bar. Goodbye, Derek. That was 2 years ago. I'm 73 now, living peacefully in my home. The same $50,000 house. Derek wanted to inherit. I updated my will the day after Derek's sentencing. Everything goes to charity now. Grady Memorial Hospital's ER fund, medical school scholarships for underrepresented minorities, elder abuse prevention organizations. My estate is worth about $2.3 million now. Derek will never see a penny of it. Even if he somehow got out of prison early, the will has an ironclad clause excluding him. I've thrown myself into advocacy work. I speak at medical conferences about recognizing elder abuse. I teach ER residents and nurses how to identify poisoning patterns in elderly patients. I work with law enforcement, training detectives on elder abuse investigations. I volunteer with Adult Protective Services, helping investigators understand the medical aspects of abuse cases. I published an article in the Journal of Emergency Medicine, Chronic Poisoning in Elderly Victims, a case study. My own case, used as a teaching tool. The article has been cited in over 50 other papers, used in medical schools across the country. Last month I was teaching a seminar at Grady Hospital, my old workplace, a room full of ER residents, eager and young and idealistic. I showed them the Dykes pills, the toxicology reports, the documentation I'd created. This is what saved my life. I told them, not luck, not chance. Knowledge. Medical knowledge combined with systematic documentation. A resident raised her hand. Dr. Hayes, how did you stay calm enough to document everything while you were being poisoned? I didn't stay calm. I was terrified, devastated, heartbroken that my own son was trying to kill me. But I'm a doctor. I know how to separate emotion from clinical observation, and I knew that if I wanted to survive and get justice, I needed evidence. Irrefutable, documented, medical-grade evidence. So that's what I created. Another resident, do you regret how you handled it? Wish you'd just called the police immediately when you found the search history? No, because if I'd called police the moment I found those searches, Derek would have claimed I was confused. Paranoid, suffering from dementia, which ironically was one of the symptoms his wife was causing by poisoning me. By documenting everything over 5 weeks, by gathering toxicology proof, video evidence, wire recordings of them discussing my murder, I built a case they couldn't possibly defend against. They're in prison for 28 and 30 years. That's justice. After the seminar, an elderly woman approached me. She was around my age, maybe 70, black, well-dressed but with worry in her eyes. Dr. Hayes, could I speak with you privately? Of course. We stepped into a quiet hallway. My daughter has been managing my medications for the past year. I've been feeling strange, dizzy, confused, weak. My doctor says it's just old age, but you don't think it is? No. And my daughter keeps asking about my will, about my life insurance. She's been having financial problems and I took her hand. Come with me. Right now, we're going to the ER and getting you a full toxicology screening. But I don't want to accuse my daughter if I'm wrong. Better to be wrong and embarrassed than right and dead. Trust me. I know. I walked her to the ER, pulled some strings with my old colleagues and got her a complete toxicology workup. The results came back 4 hours later. Elevated levels of oleander glycosides, a plant-based poison that causes symptoms identical to what she'd described. Her daughter had been poisoning her with oleander tea, disguised as herbal medicine for her health. I called Adult Protective Services, the police, gave them all the information. The daughter was arrested 3 days later. The woman, her name was Dorothy, called me crying. You saved my life. If you hadn't insisted on those tests, You saved your own life by recognizing something was wrong and speaking up. That's the hardest part. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's what I do now. I save people the way I wish someone could have warned me earlier. Though honestly, I don't know if I would have believed it if someone had told me my son was trying to kill me. Some things you have to discover for yourself. And then you have to be strong enough, smart enough, and brave enough to do something about it. I was all three, and it saved my life. Last week I visited Derek's prison. Not to see him, I haven't spoken to him since the sentencing. But I was invited to speak to inmates about the consequences of elder abuse. The prison chaplain thought it might be educational. I stood in front of 40 inmates and told them my story. About being a doctor, a mother, a widow. About trusting my son to help me with my medications. About discovering he was researching how to kill me. About documenting everything and catching him in the act. Elder abuse is one of the fastest growing crimes in America, I told them. And family members are the most common perpetrators. Children, grandchildren, caregivers. People the elderly person trusts completely. My son is in this prison right now, serving 28 years. He'll be an old man himself before he's eligible for parole. All because he wanted money more than he wanted his mother alive. Was it worth it? That's the question I want you to ask yourselves. Whatever brought you here, was it worth it? After the talk, inmates came up to me with questions. One young man, maybe 30, asked, "Do you hate your son?" I thought about it carefully. No, I don't hate him. I'm devastated by his choices. Heartbroken that he valued money more than my life. But hate? No, that would require caring more than I do now. He's a stranger to me. The son I raised died the day he typed "how to kill elderly parent" into that search bar. The man in this prison? I don't know him, and I don't want to. I drove home that day thinking about Derek. About the little boy I'd raised. The struggles we'd been through together after his father died. How had that little boy become a man who researched poisons and watched his mother die without calling for help? I don't have answers. Just the knowledge that I survived. And that I'm using my survival to help others. That night I updated my medical journal, the one I've been keeping since this all started. Day 7063. Since discovery. 2 years and 33 days. Physical health, excellent. All toxicology markers normal. No residual effects from the poisoning. Mental health, improving. Still processing grief over loss of relationship with Derek, but finding purpose in advocacy work. Activities: spoke at prison today. Also consulted on 3 elder abuse cases this week for Adult Protective Services. Teaching seminar at Emory Medical School next month. Life status: living, thriving, surviving. Outcome: justice served. Mission continuing. I closed the journal and looked around my living room. The same room where Derek and Nicole had sat, watching me die, waiting for me to stop breathing so they could inherit my money. Money they never got. Money that's now going to help train the next generation of doctors. To help abuse victims. To fund research that will save lives. That's Derek's real legacy. Not the $2.3 million he tried to steal. But the advocacy. His attempted murder inspired. The lives saved because I've taught other doctors to recognize the signs. The elderly victims who've been protected because I've helped train investigators. That's worth more than any inheritance. I'm 73 years old. I've survived cancer scares, a pandemic, 42 years of emergency medicine. And I survived my own son trying to murder me. I'm still here. Still teaching, still helping, still saving lives. Derek's in prison, and will be for decades. Nicole's in prison and will be for decades. And I'm free. Free to live my life on my terms. Free to use my knowledge to protect others. Free to make sure that what happened to me doesn't happen to anyone else. If I can prevent it, that's victory. Not revenge. Not bitterness. Just the simple act of turning evil into good. Of taking the worst thing that ever happened to me and using it to help others. My son tried to kill me, but he failed. And in failing, he gave me a purpose I never knew I needed. I'm Dr. Margaret Hayes. I'm 73 years old. I'm a survivor. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure other elderly people survive too. Because knowledge saves lives. And I have knowledge to spare.